All right, so now we are supposed to do the intro sound PlayStation 1. Do you know that one?
Bow.
Cling, cling, cling. And then Zelda, which doesn't make any sense. But let's skip directly into what we're here for. So, 1, 2, and... Hello!
Hey!
Hola, community! Welcome to the Blender Animation Studio. Here is Francesco.
Hey, hi. Getting some Beacon 20 vibes.
Beacon 20
so the
last year.
canteen set up, people hanging out, having some dinner. We just premiered Sprite Fright on a YouTube live premiere, which was a lot of fun, as always. And we thought, let's just, put together relatively on a short notice.
Very short notice. I don't know if how you landed in here, but basically we decided a few hours ago to just make a live stream to interview the team, to get together to see what they how they feel like minutes after the movie was released. If you haven't seen it, there's a link here in the description. Go watch it because you're probably gonna get some spoilers. We're gonna be interviewing directors, co-directors, artists, developers,
animators,
producers,
yeah,
everyone.
Yes.
So, how do you feel? You being how long was the whole project? Was it longer than a year?
Yeah, it's over a year, almost a year and a half. And yesterday we had a pre-premiere at iFilm, which is like a local theater here in Amsterdam. We could get together with some Blender Studio subscribers in real life and with the team and like friends. It was a really cool event. And yesterday I had a question. So, how do you feel? Like, how is it? It's done, right? It's like, well, tomorrow is done because, of course, the live premiere is kind of the highlight. It's the moment where we get to share this with everyone. So now it's more done than ever. It's never really done because now we have to communicate about the film, promote it, and say a lot of, share even more of what we did because we kept some things a bit more like behind the scenes so that there wouldn't be too many spoilers. And also people were really busy working on the film itself. So the time to package stuff and to share it was not like a lot. So that's what's gonna be our focus in the next weeks.
From now on. But if you're a Cloud subscriber, a Blender Studio subscriber, if you have gotta change that chip, they could have seen the entire film, right?
Yeah.
Like just bits of it, so super spoilery.
Yeah.
I think even with the spoilers, as I was seeing in here. It's just mind-blowing. It's a whole reading of the comments during the live stream was just like very, very
it was
special.
Fun. It
Hello.
was fun. Especially because we have. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah.
We just had the director jumping in. We're gonna be talking with him right now. But the comments in the live stream. I made some short videos. I'm gonna be posting on Blender's Instagram. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, the snail. Oh my God,
rip the snail, rip nature, everything. Yeah. But it was also cool to see that at some point people were typing slower. They were actually watching the film. So that's
the speed of the comments also like super fast, and then when drama started, it was like.
So it's been super enjoyable. I'm super happy. I think that having a moment to hang out, you can chat also with the artists and the developers, just to share and to maybe interact a little bit with with everyone that is asking questions. That's like a good moment. So I hope you guys are gonna enjoy this.
Hello.
Hey.
You're here.
Yeah.
No, you are here. Come.
You can wave to the community. You can say hi.
Do you don't even fit? I am too. Okay.
Wait, I have to go on my nails.
You got on your nails. Yeah, okay. That's you. That's the camera.
Perfect.
And we are just chatting. So we got Tom Rosendahl, executive producer of the
The
film.
real film credit.
Yes.
Yes.
Real. Wow.
I have to get a little share because
Yeah.
So I think maybe Tony's gonna say hi, I guess, and then it's gonna be Matthew. I'm gonna call people in.
Yes.
So I hope you guys are gonna
but
enjoy
you-
everything.
you are going to get the real director.
We're gonna get everyone. Yeah.
The director, I was doing producer. So, as executive producer, how did you feel? This movie went over 1 year production,
15 months.
15 months.
Yep.
How is it? How did you? It's not normal for a Blender production to go this long.
Nowadays it is. Spring was also like 15 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was different for Sprite Fright compared to other films?
Well, we first thought that because of the corona pandemic, we would like to have a nice story development phase, and then after the winter in March or April, when the corona was over, we could make the production. But that didn't happen. So we tried to keep postponing it, but at some moment, like, so thanks to the homework rule and the corona pandemic, we could spend 8-9 months only on story development before we went to production.
Do you think it would have been different, the end result would have been different if we didn't have these 9 months of...
Well, but that's the interesting thing, what you will find out if you subscribe to the studio website. We are going to share every version from the beginning. There are over 100 versions of the film.
Yeah.
And if you look back to the very first one, and then the second and the third, you can see the process. And at some moment it iterated, right? I think the story was locked halfway.
Halfway, in version 60 or so.
But what we then improved was the little gags and the camera and the staging and the clarity of the story. And this is especially something Matthew is super good at.
Yeah.
He's been training us a lot of good tricks for how to make films.
This is the first time that someone outside of everywhere, like everything in Blender, like someone from Hollywood,
From a real film studio.
from a real film studio,
Absolutely.
real film.
Yep.
We know. So how was it to work? Like, do you think that the studio was up to the level, or do you think we managed?
Oh yes, we are. But you can ask Matthew about
I'm gonna
that.
ask him. I'm
Compare
curious.
it with
I'm curious if
Hollywood.
Blender was a limitation or not as for storytelling.
It's the opposite. What he appreciated was that the freedom to make things,
Yeah.
and that we don't have the investors or distributors or other market people who tell you how to make a film. It was only us.
Yeah.
And the only thing we wanted to do was make the best film we could possibly make. And the decisions, the creative decisions happen here.
Yeah.
With the creative
With the
team.
team. This is definitely the most adult theme film we have made. Do you?
Nah.
No?
What do you think of Glass Half?
Glass. No, but
Nah.
there is certain gore.
Or
There's gore. There is the B word.
What's happening?
I just need to fix the camera. Don't worry.
Off or what?
Huh? It went off. Yeah. It's
It was his fault.
maybe.
You were moving it.
Yes. Okay. Let me try to
But
get
there's
the
something
camera.
here.
No, this is the live stream. So did you unplugged and played it again?
That's the moment.
There you go. Now we're here. Okay, cool. So now, thank you, Matt. No.
The most, of course, important thing is, of course, that we want to do something that helps Blender. Right?
Yes.
That's why we do things. And I think this film is really made also to prove production pipeline and to test, to work with a bit of a bigger team on things, how to prepare things very well with like the post library, all the other things that we worked on to make it a very smooth and efficient.
Switching from 2.9 to 3.0. What's also?
Until I think 6 weeks ago, the studio used every day the daily build. Every day the daily build. So Blender is always production ready, even when you get the last build.
Even Cycles X for some shots. I heard.
Yeah, we used it.
That was quite a big thing.
For
Do
speed,
you,
of course.
yes. Do you have bigger? You recently announced the roadmap for 3.x.
Yeah.
When writing that, did you already have in mind some open movie projects that could be related to those things?
Yep.
Yeah? So there are things.
At least two.
At least two.
Oh yes, we know already how it is. But I'm not going to talk about that
No,
today.
length
We
at
keep it
least. Are they short
spoilers.
films, long films, or we can't even say that?
Why would I say anything?
I know.
Right?
Why?
You want to know?
The freedom to create.
I think one will be short and one will be medium. Not like a feature
No,
film,
like a
but,
special.
One is like 1 or 2 minutes, but we'll make a really short one.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But that's already a spoiler!
No,
You
no.
don't even know about
I don't
it
even
yet.
know that. Yeah, no.
No,
I'm
keep it a
actually
secret
learning
for
the same time as you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have a great idea about what to do for the next film.
Okay, it's gonna
And for
be
the film after that, we also have a great idea.
great. Okay, we can
It's
expect.
inspiring for everyone. It's interesting. It's good for Blender to do. It's good for everyone.
And it's already, you can imagine, harder, more complex than the current one, or you're going for
Always.
something easier.
Always.
This movie had like how many
That's
characters?
Easy.
Easy.
So the next film will be super hard. Super hard.
Super hard.
Have
Okay.
to make it super hard. I think there was a walk in the park, right?
This one. Yeah,
walk
only
in the
like
park,
30
walk in-
Smurfs. Yeah.
I mean, we were finished like already 2 weeks before the deadline, right?
But that's how it's supposed
Yeah,
to be.
yeah, you should like feel the deadline in your back,
In your back,
like that,
yeah.
and hitting you really bad.
Yeah, the version premiered yesterday and the one you see today is the same. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
didn't do anything
didn't
anymore.
happen in the past.
So no, I'm super happy, of course, with this.
Okay.
But we will keep pushing Blender, and Blender can be pushed in several areas. If you look at the roadmap,
Yeah.
there are many themes there for the node systems and physics, and that kind of, and the real-time rendering and EV. I think we should do something with that. We have ideas.
Real time short film. That would be a
No, I
first.
said enough.
Okay, okay, okay.
Shall we go to the next?
You heard? Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh. You heard it first. A real-time open movie film. That would be a first. So, without further ado, we have here the director, writer, idea behind the person behind Sprite Fright. So, Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to see the all the reactions to the film. This makes me very happy. Yeah, so I'm just still just enjoying that we just released it to the world.
Yeah, this must be. I mean, you are used to making film. You know your background. There's a few interviews on the Blender Cloud and Blender Studio website where you can read more about his background, which goes from what Simpsons to Toy Story to like.
Yeah. 20 years at Pixar, making all these mostly kid-friendly movies, and now Sprite Fright.
So is this a film that you said, okay, this is my chance? You asked Don. Did you ask Don like, hey, can I go a bit more
Well,
friendly with?
I pitched this idea to Ton and Francesco.
Yeah.
And, I knew that I could probably get away with doing something a little more edgy, which I have never been able to do before.
No.
And so it was when they were like, this is cool, then I was very happy. And I've always loved, films that do a good job blending horror and comedy. And I also come from a family that owns toy stores. And I grew up with a lot of Smurfs. And so that was the perfect little blend for Sprite Fright.
Wow. So the final result, did you get all the jokes you wanted to get in? Do you have?
There's always more jokes to put in.
Yeah?
But I wanted to make sure that they didn't conflict with the story or the pacing.
Yeah.
So there is nothing I would want to change on this.
Nothing.
And there's nothing I can change on this. So.
Wow. If you could make a part 2, would you? Would you
part
even?
two.
Do you think in this world it
Well,
would be possible?
Ellie did leave her fanny pack behind, didn't she? I think her address is in
Yeah.
there, her home address.
Oh wow.
Those sprites might be smart enough to track her down.
Well, they have birds. They could go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get her.
Oh, my.
So that's a story for another day.
That's sorry for another. Wow. So this film. So you were you familiar with the Blender project before that, as a software or as a studio?
Yes. Yeah. So the first time I was aware of Blender was when I saw The Agent. And it was actually at MIP TV when I saw the booth. And then also, the next time I was familiar with Blender was Francesco met me at a story workshop I was teaching. And so, then I started checking out Blender stuff online. I was very impressed. And it was such a wonderful surprise when they called me up. So, which was, like 15 months ago or so.
Kind of, it's a very special opportunity, right? To get
yeah.
hey, do you want to make a film? We'll do it.
For a creative person to be able to have a company say, what would you like to make? We'll support you
Yeah.
making it. And you can have all these super talented animators and lighters and modelers and like help you make it. That's like a dream come true.
It is, right?
You know, and they were just very supportive. You know, it wasn't a story that I just had written out on day one. It was me rewriting it and storyboarding it with our storyboard artist over and over again. But also, I didn't see a lot of the great comments out there about the music, but the music was by Ben Lee, who did the music for one of the Sprite, for the most liked Spring
Really?
on YouTube. He did the music for it, which was great. And the songs were by a band called Tennis Pro, which was David Drury and Phil Phillips. And so, so I'm I couldn't be more happy with this.
So a bit back to Blender. So I was just curious, like, did you you knew what Blender could do because of The Agent
Yep.
and other films you watched? Did you ever, like, when thinking about the story, do you ever put the software as a kind of like, oh, maybe this can't be done in Blender, or was it like a kind of limitation, or you just went
Well,
like,
I guess I came from, you know, the world at Pixar, which was, don't worry about the limitations when it comes to the story. Just make what is going to be a great story, and the technical people will figure it out.
there when at working
Yeah.
at Pixar, there is, you can say,
Yeah.
I want a, I don't know, waterfall
a-
of whatever, and
of
just
furry animals or something,
all
right?
wet
Yes.
and burning.
And but I thought the same thing working on this project. I never stopped and went, oh boy, how are we going to make, you know, a film with, you know, 5 humans and a bunch of sprites, and then they're all going to get, you know, I assume everybody's already watched this.
Everybody has the
and,
link in the
you know,
description, too.
and there's a lot of, you know, characters getting cut up and drowned and put on fire. I never thought for a moment, are they going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
I had full confidence you guys would be able to make it come to life. So,
Like, it's also a good exercise. If you had those limitations, hey, like, we can't do fire, we can't do this.
yeah,
we can do...
then I would have had to figure out a different way to get rid of those humans, those
no.
destructive humans. But no.
Wow. So what's next for you? Can we find anything on that? You're gonna be...
Well, you know, really, I am just so excited about Sprite Fright right now that my next step is to be home for the holidays with my family, and then just see what is the next story that starts to come to life, and you guys will be the first to know.
That's super great to hear. Where can we find more from you? You have your work. You also give workshops, study workshops.
Well, yeah, I do those still every once in a while, but I'm at MatthewLunnStory.com,
Okay.
my website. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Everything is pretty much, there's not many Matthew Lunns out there.
Okay.
Put Matthew Lunn's Story or something like that, you'll find me. So.
Okay. Well, we're gonna
All
look it
right.
up. Thank you very much.
My
for
pleasure.
dropping by.
Thank you, everybody.
It was amazing. Look, all the nice comments. We have the screen here in the back where all your comments are being shown to everybody having dinner down there. So I heard, so Matthew is the director. He's also have a co-director, which you might have seen. You may know.
No, it's over here.
So yeah, okay. So hey, I didn't see you there. Remember
Hey.
that guy? Remember this guy?
Hello.
Hjalti Hjalmarsson,
It's me.
co-director, director of Agent 327, the Daily Dweebs,
Coffee run? I don't know.
Coffee
Yeah,
Run, yes, creator of Coffee Run.
I worked on some things, and it's fun.
So yes, and so many. How? So first, how do you feel about this film being over?
I'm very happy. I mean, I'm happy with the final product, of course, and it's been fantastic to see the kind of live chat feed, and especially when some of the kind of twists happen, and you just see like people just like on their keyboard, whoa, it's
and they're
so
not
great.
typing, like a
Yeah,
silence.
yeah,
You're like, what?
Exactly.
So-
So, but besides that, because I was in charge of the editorial, it means I'm the person that had to listen to all of the songs the most time, all the dialogue the most time, and so I've seen this thing so many times that I'm looking forward to after maybe 2 months from now, watching it and maybe having a more cleared mind, because I'm just so numb to every joke, to every beat. When I noticed it when we were doing the final sound mix, you're sitting down in a nice studio and just kind of, okay, now I need to only focus on the sound levels and all of that. And I couldn't stop mouthing the dialogue.
Oh.
And because, hey, Mr. Snail, and it's just like, I just couldn't stop.
Bonus points.
Yeah. Latin. Yes, exactly. So,
did you do any voices for the?
I did unintentionally because I did because I was in charge of the editorial.
Yeah.
I was the guy taking all the storyboards in, putting them into the edit, making sure that I made something that kind of made sense. Obviously I'm working with like great drawings from Dirk, our storyboard artist, but I have to then make something that makes sense in the timeline, and I have to like cherry pick how long are the shots. It doesn't make sense. But then add sound to all of this.
Yeah.
And in some cases it's like more atmospheric stuff, some sound effect stuff. But then at some point I was like, okay, these sprites, they gotta have some crazy sounds to them. So, and we hadn't really discussed it. So I just went into our little recording booth, and I just hit record and I started screaming like crazy. Just like maniacal screams, or whatever.
Did you tell anybody before going?
No. I think there were a couple.
Okay?
There were a couple of developers. I didn't realize just how like not isolated some of the
Zero isolation.
Yeah.
You're like clink the walls.
So when I exited, I saw like I caught a couple of glimpses from some of the developers, just like, what?
You okay?
You're okay.
Do you need help?
And but yeah, it was supposed to be a temporary thing, just for the kind of scratch version of it. It ended up in the film, because we just kind of never replaced it, and at some point.
Or you nailed it.
Oh yeah. That was totally it. Yeah, people were so impressed by it. Yeah. And of course Matthew, he did the son of a Sprite berry, line.
Oh,
Yeah. We just kind of pitched it up a little bit. We did verify that. First of all, we wanted to make sure that everything feels more British, and then that line, because we got a couple of the voice actors to deliver that line also, and we could not hear a difference between a British person and English. When you scream in pain or whatever, I guess some of the differences just kind of go away. Yeah. So, and we just liked his performance so much, we were like, well, let's just keep it in. It doesn't really
Can't
change
even
anything.
tell.
Yeah, it was a
Wow.
lot of fun.
So this film,
Yes, sir.
it's I think it's maybe one of the most adult themed. Well, Coffee Run, but no, wait, that's Cosmos Laundromat.
That's Cosmos Laundromat.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's. Would you say that is more?
No,
or
but
less?
I mean about the gore part of this film, and there is some ping, there is some B words.
B word. Yeah,
how did you feel with that? Do you think is that you don't see that usually? You wouldn't see that not at all in any Pixar film.
Well, you would.
Film.
I mean, because bitches isn't per se a curse word or swear word like in traditional sense. Obviously you can use it derogatory and all of that. I mean, you can use a lot of words derogatory, of course. But when we were trying out whatever line he was gonna say, Matthew, we hadn't figured out exactly what line it was gonna be. And then because there's a time difference between me and Matthew, we were like working over Skype, video chats all the time. Whenever I would wake up, he would have already like been thinking about stuff and whatnot. And I always had like a couple of emails waiting for me, and I had to like take the first hour like writing down all my notes based on what he said. And at one point he was like, I don't know what line we're gonna go for, but I did some just freestyling recordings of like some ideas that I had. Can you just take a listen and just pick whatever you feel makes sense or whatever? Yeah. So I listened to, it was like 50 different versions of him just saying something like
pick the wrong camp.
Yeah.
X blank.
yeah, exactly. And he phrased it in a different way and all of that. And I listened to all of them, and the only one that like really made me laugh out loud was the bitches line.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let's just try that as the temporary one. And we discussed this later on. We're like, we're gonna replace this later. You know, it works for now. And then as we actually replaced it at some point, we started getting, you know, some of our coworkers were like, hey, I saw the latest version. Man, I really miss that bitches line. It was just so funny, and it just hit the spot right at the right moment. And we were like, yeah, but you know,
It's unexpected. You see a nice
Yeah,
fluffy
yeah,
guy, you're like,
exactly.
yeah, you picked the wrong.
because that's the thing. It's Papa Smurf kind of a thing, you know, and you're like,
Supposed to
whoa,
be
yeah,
like
it's
the
supposed to be a bit
nicest kid, yeah,
shocking,
yeah.
exactly. So you know, it's you know, there was the kind of F bomb in Cosmos Laundromat,
Yeah.
which and obviously we're not. None of these things are necessarily made for young kids. We're not like
It's actually
that's our target
PG
audience. Or anything.
13 plus.
Yeah,
A bit too
exactly.
edgy for me. In some comments, it was edgy. Some actually, I like it wasn't politically correct. So there is mixed feelings, and that is a good sign of a good film.
Ooh,
Big
yeah,
things,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
If-
When it's mixed, and obviously, I totally understand when people are just like, you know, it's not my cup of tea, and that's totally fine. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot make something that is just for everybody.
No.
You're always going to have people that just happen to not like it, and you know, in some cases, people just don't like horror stuff. Or don't like things that have action in it or anything like that, or they just have really bad, you know, they have bad experiences with urine, with pee, and they're just like, oh man, this brings so many
Here-
painful memories of pee, and you know,
Did you test this film with like family, friends, and
with friends definitely, and we never got any like, this is going too far or whatever. I mean, maybe I'm surrounded by people with darker humor. I don't know.
do you think you have to like roll back any changes? Any like, okay, it's a bit too much.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. We did one version. It was like we called it we at one point we forked the story into more like, we called it the tribal version, and then we took it down a notch. So the tribal version went full cannibalistic almost, where you know, where they
Almost.
where they find the bloody shoe. It actually has like a leg attached to it, and the guys are just kind of gnawing on
Oh, really?
on the meat and just like have a bone there, and it went really far. And we just wanted to see like how far is too far, and then we can like tone it down. And in that case, also when Ellie goes through the bush and she sees Phil,
Yeah.
he's kind of hanging upside down, and he has sausages like filled in his mouth and in his ears, and it's obvious that they're like cooking him and they're gonna eat him.
Upside down, so it's probably like the head is blue and it's like. That's,
Oh yeah. It went full horror there.
Okay.
But yeah, we storyboarded it, we put it in the edit, and yeah, we looked at it, and it's like, you know, it actually. It was the version that made us go, you know what, the cool thing here is like her going through the bushes and having that fire, like illuminator face.
Mushroom?
Wow.
Really?
Ooh la la. Is this candy?
What
Yes, it is.
it?
Enjoy.
Wow. Ooh, thank you. Well.
It's no. Oh my gosh, so much sugar.
Oh, sugar.
It's great. So
It's nice. Oh, it's time. Okay.
no, wait.
Okay.
What's next for you?
What's next?
Do you know even?
I'm not sure. Well, right now it's all about making content for the cloud,
Yeah.
and I've been kind of. We made the poster, and I did like a time lapse recording of me taking a brand new Blender file, which is the default cube, and I think I sped it up by 20 times or something, like to make it not too boring or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so it time lapses all of that all the way to kind of the final post version of the poster, and I think it's going to be really interesting. And I wrote down all the different little, you know, in the corner I wrote down exactly what's happening at each time.
Yeah.
But also, you know, that, Matthew is leaving tomorrow. Sadly, he's going back to the United States. But before he left, I really wanted to have like a sit down with him, where we just went over the different versions of the story, and so I set it up. We made 130 something versions of this film, fully throughout, and I kind of cherry picked a few of them, and then we sat down in the recording booth for 3 hours. It was supposed to be 1 hour. And we just talked about every single, like, all these different versions, and like, why did we change some things, and why did we do it this way and whatnot. I think it's going to be a really cool
kind of behind the scenes thing. You know?
Wow, yeah, especially if all those versions, previous versions are there. But are you already thinking of next open movie projects to work on? Or still,
We're still figuring it out. Yeah,
it's still in Sprite Fright mode?
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Nothing is nailed down yet.
Nailed down.
Hey! See what it did there.
Okay,
That was good.
thank you very much
That's pretty
for
good.
yeah, I've been practicing. I've been thinking about it all day. All right, so that was Hjalti Hjalmarsson, co-director of Sprite Fright and many other open movies. Now we have ready in line here. I don't know if you are ready, but I would like you to be ready. You are the director. I don't know if you've. Do you maybe have to sit down?
Yeah. Hi.
Camera. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Good. Andy Goralczyk, art director of Sprite Fright and director of Spring and art director of pretty much every other open movie prior to that. How? First of all, I'm glad you're here. I know that it's been pretty busy.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
Francesco keeps saying that it's less than previous open movie projects.
I mean, it was equally as busy, but this time we improved some things with the planning and how everything is structured, so it's not as cramped towards the end. But we still worked our asses off until the very end. So it wasn't easy. But
It wasn't easy, and
yeah.
you also, and I think I remember during spring it was like we moved from 2.7 to 2.8, and okay, it's not going to happen anymore. Comes Sprite Fright, and you move from 2.9 to 3.0.
yeah.
Not as painful, I hope.
No, it's fine. Like, I mean, there's some pretty significant changes that we didn't really account for. Like, we didn't know that at the beginning that geometry nodes would be this big in this project.
yeah.
And then at the end, they played a huge role. And but I mean, the biggest thing that we had to work on was overrides.
Overrides.
Replacing
Do you think
proxies. Yeah.
that is like the biggest thing?
That
in this
was
project?
one of the. Well, I mean. Yeah, on the development level, I would say, yeah, overrides, the animation asset browser and that kind of stuff. That was a huge part, but I would say overrides, that was one of the things that in the beginning was quite difficult to work with.
And I guess that's because we are like how many 30 sprites? How many in
Well,
some shots?
I mean, yeah, I think in some shots we have over 20 sprites.
20 sprites.
Yeah, and without overrides that would not have been possible in that way, because you need to have basically one blend file for each sprite to have individual files. So you can't just have a linked copy of one sprite and have it animated differently. You know, and overrides kind of do that. You have just one asset, one character file, but you can duplicate it. But then when you do changes to the original, they propagate to all the other sprites. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't imagine how you would do this without overrides. The entire, like, unless you have 20 blend files of 20 little sprites.
Just make a script that copies the file 20 times and then
Like for
propagates.
Tears of Steel, or
Yeah.
I think Lamigos also there was 8 penguins. So that's for like the technical side. And the artistic side, what is did you also are director pretty much every other open movie? What would make Sprite Fright special? We know already that the plot is more adult theme. It's also kind of 80-ish, and did any of those aspects influence the art direction in the film?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we had our production designer Ricky Nerva, who like worked on so many great Pixar films on character design and production design. So we had a great template to start from, because he he made the initial character concepts, and he came up with the whole design language of this film, and we just built on that. And we never really had that for the previous open movies, which here it really helped us to keep the style all aligned and everything. And the challenge was because this was a cartoony style that we really hadn't done before. We have never done an animation that was partially on 2s, partially on 1s, with smear frames, with the stylized shading that we have. We kind of did a bit more photorealistic stuff, and this is less photorealistic. It's still the lighting is still supposed to be very naturalistic, so to get you sucked into the story, but it's different, and that's made it challenging and also different.
Wow. In terms of effects, you also were in charge of the effects one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was helped. Simon Thomas, he did a lot of effects that are not simulation, so we kind of split it up. I did the simulation stuff, all the fire, the fluids.
The fluids.
The fluids.
Let's say just fluids.
The fluids, and then like rocks crumbling and that kind of stuff. So just the simulation stuff that I did. And then Simon handled all the non-simulation stuff, which is the sprites melting and everything that is made with crazy geometry node setups. He tackled that. So I was really, really super happy that I was able to share some of the work.
There is a lot more than meets the eye, I think. Which
yeah.
one would you say is your favorite effect, gore, joke, slash...
Okay, without spoilers?
With spoilers. People
okay.
should have watched it
I
now.
guess
The
you
link
should have
is in
seen
the
it by
description.
now, right?
Yeah, otherwise pause this, watch it, the video is in the description, and then come back.
Yeah.
What is the...
I'm a big fan of the bird poop that was slapped into Elder Sprite's face.
Yeah.
Because that was a big combination of just all the different departments, because Rick, our animation supervisor and animator, also he painted that with grease pencil. But then Simon made a script that converts it into a mesh, so each frame converts it into mesh, and then it's a mesh and you can shade it. And then we just touch it up and we clean it up. But then what Simon did for the shot where Elder Sprite goes, let's mop up this mess, and he has all the stuff in his face. He sculpted it by hand,
Frame by frame,
without using the grease pencil. So it was like something that the animator started, that we worked on, and then he brought it to the next level on the next shot. That was a really cool effect. But all the melting stuff, the melting effects and the splatter, so much fun.
Wow. What is next for you in that regarding Sprite Fright? Are you gonna work on some making of stuff for the studio site?
Yeah, definitely. Like everyone here has been working super busy to make making of material, and I've just had time to crank out the film now, and now I have some more time to work on making of material. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of the design processes that we had in our film. And then film production pipeline was also a big thing here, because we tried to be a little bit more structured this time, and we developed a lot of tools for that. That people they can already use it on the cloud, even like some of the scripts that Paul or TD made.
Yeah, the studio tools is a repository. There is even an article about it, but I'm actually very curious about that, because I remember your presentation at the conference about the pipeline on Spring, and it looks super like nailed down and like a process, and you said that you improved on this time.
Right. Yeah, we tried to improve it this time, because for each project, you want to look at what you have done before,
Make it better.
and actually make it not bad.
Yeah.
So in this project, we had a lot of things from just tracking our progress through the whole film production, and then managing all the animators. We had more animators than any film before, like managing all that stuff coming in. And then reviewing the shots that we get back from the render farm, lighting it, and building all the files, because if everyone just makes the files themselves, every file will be different.
Yeah, it will be different.
It'll be a huge mess. So we did a fair bit of automation, which you wouldn't think if you do a small movie in your garage or so. You wouldn't think to do that if you just want to work on your own. But if you have such a big team as we did now, it was just super essential to do it.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
Okay, so really looking forward to that too. Like a comparison how things were done for Spring and how they're done now, because it's shows how the experience and the team grows.
How do you like the film?
I loved it. I tried not to watch it in the last few weeks, like at the weeklies and stuff, to get a first experience, and it just all works so well. Like,
Cool.
yeah, so it's just something you haven't seen in Blender made, and you also don't see pretty often in animation. Yeah, love
Yeah.
it. Love it. We should let's do more of this. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for dropping
Thanks
by.
for having me here.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I don't know. Maybe you need to ask the producer who is my next guest, like David Letterman, say. Need a drink. So, okay.
Well, hello.
All the way from the kitchen. Here we have Julian Kasper, and you can have a seat if you like.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's a microphone. Just need to talk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it just picks up everything.
so, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. What's your role in? What do you do in Sprite Fright? What would you say you did?
What did I do? It's like this time I didn't do everything.
Good.
That
I
was
like
still
spring.
the running gag.
Yes.
Yeah, I did mainly do. There were like two main tasks, and that was like for the first half of the production, I was doing the. Like I was working on the character design, and more specifically the sculpting of the characters. I did a little bit of retopology, but then afterwards I was just mainly responsible for the set dressing and the asset library. So lots of modeling, but this time we had more people on board, not like with Spring. We had like Bo and like Andy actually got to do a lot more actually hands-on tasks because this time he was not the director.
Because there was, yeah, exactly, and more people in the team means you
Exactly.
can spread out.
And Simon, like we had so many more people. It's
That's
it's
so
amazing.
cool.
Still a small team, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was basically occupied for most of it with the characters because we have a lot of them.
And you mentioned asset library. Do you guys actually use an asset library this time, or just a handmade?
Just the old handmade workflow.
Yeah,
because
as the browser wasn't ready
yeah,
yet.
from time to time we were like trying out the asset browser as like this experimental feature, but we didn't really get to test it in a production workflow because it was just not ready yet.
Wow.
It's a bit sad, but next time.
How would you compare the pipeline from Spring to this project? And do you think, what would you say that it can be improved for your job, for what you're doing, for modeling, sculpting, and getting assets ready?
For what I'm doing, well, I mean, in terms of like the character creation, which has like its own workflow to it, we had it much more nailed down this time. For Spring, like we had entire discussions afterwards of like how chaotic it was. we had like 3 characters, but we spent a lot of time on them and kind of in an unsynchronized way, like doing it kind of out of order. But it was a bit messy, but it worked. But this time, since we had like 13 characters in total, we had
13 different characters.
yes. 13 different characters because it's the 5 students,
Yeah.
then Elder Sprite and the Sprite, and then all the animals. So
Oh,
that's
yeah,
that's
the
the snail, the bird,
bird,
the chunky snail.
Yeah.
And
Which
like-
you modeled in one of the streams, I think you wrote up on one.
exactly, yeah. That's like part of it. I actually live streamed on
Yeah.
the Blender Studio channel.
That's
so
a lot of characters. First time we do such a thing.
it's the most amount of characters we ever made for an open movie project. So. And it was also a different style than we usually do. So usually we go for something a bit more stylized or slightly more in a realistic direction. The character designs are more complicated. But this time we went, especially because we had Ricky Nieva
Yeah.
as the production designer and main concept artist. He really had this workflow and like this term that he got into the production called simplexity, and he really pushed for it, that like we are trying to make each character first develop it as like these simple shapes. Like Ellie is a sphere on a stick, Elder Sprite is a sphere with like the cap over it, and then Rex is just like a bunch of tapered cylinders. It's like, so it's this very clear, very simplified shape language. And then once we start developing these, we develop these further in sculpting. Whatever we added, whatever complexities were added on top, they were never allowed to change the simplest design aspect. So these
Okay, so still a triangle, still a shape.
exactly. So it has kind of the sort of the in parts even the illusion of it looking like a sphere, But if you would just like take away the hair or like look at the characters in like as an individual objects, it's much more complicated. But if you look at the whole, it looks like a sphere. Like it looks like simple shapes. So that was one of the biggest challenges for the character design.
Wow, that's a first too, right, for a Blender production, I think.
Yeah. It tends to get a bit messy. And interestingly enough, also for other projects, like I'm also used to this workflow where like you get into the sculpting process, you start working on the characters, and you start off from the point where like you have all of these final concept art pieces and like really nice illustrations and paintings, and like the concept artists already did their job. And then your job is to translate that into 3D and make it work. But this time, when Ricky and Matthew came on board with the pitch and with the concept art, it was really rough and loose. It was intentionally left very simple because they wanted us to figure this out in 3D. They wanted us to figure it out all together at the same time, because it is a problem-solving process. And if you try to find out all the solutions in 2D drawings and paintings first, you're going to overlook everything. Things are not going to work out. And
that's brilliant. Well, that also talks about their experience in Pixar and other.
So, I mean, that's kind of what we expected for when we had like suddenly Ricky and Matthew on board, that, okay, we're like they're here also to show us how they did it, and like that we can actually learn from them in how we can improve our own workflow, and it worked. Like we created like a 10-minute movie with more assets than we ever made for one project.
And it worked.
We actually did it in 1.5 years.
And it was on time and with a pandemic in the middle.
Yeah.
So
I think Ton said like that we had still like 2 weeks to spare when we finished it, but there were so many little changes. It's like it was 2 days to spare. It's like it's always like if you really look at all the fine tweaks, like up until the end we're making changes. We're still adjusting the movie.
Well, it still felt like it was kind of under control. So
oh yeah, definitely. We were the deadline was pretty much under control. So
that's good to hear. What are your plans for Blender Studio content / Blender Cloud? We're trying to rename it.
Yeah, recently we like spent so much time on actually finishing the movie that like at least I didn't get to make a lot of content for like tutorials and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We want to make more. We want to make like making of like the breakdown videos, little tutorials on the Blender Cloud, just explaining all of these little things that we learned, and just like the kind of design principles that we used for the movie. And there's a lot to go over, and I think everyone in the team has something special to show.
And they mentioned the pipeline and also the design itself. So looking forward to what you're gonna share. Do you plan to continue the streams after this nightmare?
It's a good question, because I mean I really enjoyed the streams, but I would like to not do it as a regular thing, probably. I would love to do a stream here and then, like if there's really something interesting to show.
Yeah, but not like, as a schedule, because
exactly.
Suddenly
because then you
just run out of things.
Yeah, you're scraping stuff together. And I loved it how in the beginning with the streams, how it was like, okay, I'm basically done with the characters, but there's still like these snails that I get to do. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it live.
Yeah.
Screw it. So then I actually got to show that. And then there was also a little bit on set dressing, on sets that were not spoilery. So that's the thing. I did a lot of set dressing afterwards, but it was always for the later half of the movie. So the little bit that I could show, I did show live. So that was something.
And thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here, and hope to see more of your work.
Yeah.
And even outside of Sprite Fright, after Sprite Fright, hope to see more content from you.
That would be amazing.
Like personal artwork or tutorials or
there's
settlers.
Once we're done with making content related to the movie, we're going to probably work on other tutorial content on the Blender Cloud. Anything that.
Start thinking of something.
Yeah, I still call it the Blender Cloud, but it's the Blender Studio now.
What are you most interested in terms of content? Write it down. We're reading. Everybody's reading here the comments. You are on a big screen, by the way.
I'm gonna watch the comments now.
Yes. Okay. So what would you like to see tutorials about? All right. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here, and I think we can call someone else.
Yes, I'm gonna leave it to the next person.
The man. Okay, so here you're about to see a rare type of artists. They are called riggers, and they are and it's very rare to see them
Hecklers.
out in the wild.
Hi, Pablo.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
How are you doing? I've never been on camera
Oh, you haven't?
because I told myself I wouldn't come on camera until I rig a lot of things. And
Until
now
you
I
rig, and you
rigged
have.
a lot of things. Yes.
Well, so welcome to the camera world. There's a
Hi,
bunch of
camera.
people watching you. The person right here is the Mater. He worked on the rigging side of things. Cloud rig, look at that. There's people excited about cloud rig. We're going to talk about what is that
Crazy
even.
people.
Should we studio rig now?
No, it is not getting renamed.
It's not getting renamed.
named after the frigging thing that's in the sky. Rain comes from it. It doesn't have to be renamed. It has
There you go.
nothing to do with connecting things to the internet
Yes. So,
or any other product of the Blender project.
so you are the rigger of the film. Were you really like just the one person rigging the entire, all the characters?
No, actually, that's a complete lie. Andy rigged the flashlight.
The flashlight. Ah, okay. Well, so why is
So really, it
your
was more of a 50-50 effort.
50-50. Okay. So we need to change the credits, everybody.
Yeah, actually, under rigging, it should say me and Andy. Yes.
Wow. So this is your first open movie project, right? Like as in
No, Coffee Run. I did
Coffee Run. Okay, but this is like maybe the first one over
First
1 year
huge.
long. Yeah.
Yes.
And
this
with
is the
like
first huge project.
20 plus characters and
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Nah, it wasn't 20, but 12.
18, I think,
Yeah.
or I think.
Fine. Yeah, but like some of those, like the butterfly and the ladybug and the chunky snail were all rigged in one day
Well,
together.
did you use Rigify? We got a question here from a
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yes, kind of.
that
Cloud
means-
Rig is kind of Rigify. It started out as an extension of Rigify, but it's kind of growing into a monstrosity of a like gory twist on Rigify. But yeah, let's say I use Rigify.
Rigify with modules. I guess you expanded the modules.
Rigify with a lot of extra coding. slapped
Extra
on
coding.
top.
So you actually get to code.
Yeah. Actually, most of my work it's like half coding. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of halves. So half coding, half weight painting, half talking to animators. It's only 3 halves. We go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. How much is talking to animators? Is it like a feature request fest or complaint?
Early on in production, yes, and then I expected it to become a nightmare late in production, but I kept asking the animators like, "Hey guys, like, is Rick threatening you? Like, is he blackmailing you? Like, why are you not complaining about stuff?" But they were just like, "No, it's fine. I'm used to worse." So I was like, "Okay, that's good, but still though, if it sucks, then please talk to me."
Wow.
And then they sometimes did, and then
And
we
it's-
fixed it.
It's so rig. How is it how is it to rig in such a long production? How is it like probably the main characters were the first to be made to be rigged, but then
Yeah.
if you can't be changing things towards the end of a project, can you?
Can you?
Well, you
Well.
you are playing with fire there until
Well, yeah, we actually, I mean, so our pipeline, I would say, is very different from what I've learned of bigger pipelines in that, yeah, we just change stuff when a lot of stuff is already done and then it breaks and then I have to keep everything backward compatible. And that's been a nightmare, but I got used to it over time. So yeah, we were still changing. I mean, okay, we didn't, like, we never locked the rigs. There was no, this rig is never to be touched ever again. That never happened. But we did stop touching the rigs. Like, it naturally happened that we just didn't need any more fixes. Maybe is August before September? I think so. So yeah, at some point we stopped touching the rigs, but we kept changing stuff on when like half the movie was done.
would you rather have a cache? I forgot to ask the guys if they do use caching, like
We
animation cache.
considered caching, and Paul did develop some caching stuff, but in the end, I think I don't exactly know why, but we didn't go for it.
No.
I think there were some limitations involved, or just too much headache. I'm not sure.
Okay, because that would have saved you probably. Like once the animation is there, okay,
Potentially, yes.
cache it and it's over.
Well, yes, that's true, but then towards the end of the production, like the animators would have this giant list of CBBs. Maybe someone mentioned it already. What that means, there could be betters.
Yeah.
So sometimes someone would go back to a shot that's been finished for 5 months, and then to try to make it a little bit better because we have a bit of extra time, or at that time the animators had a little bit of extra time, which was actually super surprising to me. But yeah, so then if they want to go back and everything is cached, then that's a nightmare. So it's nice, I think, that we kept the rigs backwards compatible and we didn't rely on caching because the guys could go back and make things a little bit better.
Reanimate things. So it's the love limiter. You get some love there. So
Thank you, chat.
it's as a rigger, what is your reaction to this state of rigging in Blender 3.0?
It's the same as it was
You
in
can
Blender
not answer it,
2.4. No. Okay, look, I want to give a huge shout out to Alexander Gavrilov, who is not watching this. He's a community contributor who has been contributing a lot of patches in the rigging side, and I really like those patches, and they are super nice. But at the same time, we have to throw it all out. It has to go in the trash and be burned and rebuild from scratch. And there is no roadmap for this. You know, I'm not a developer. I'm not here to announce anything. This is just my dreams and my wishes.
But you're part of the rigging module.
I poke my nose into the animation rigging module as much as I can. Yes, and
Yes.
I keep Severin on my good side. Yes.
Your highest hopes is the rigging nodes just a buzzword?
It's a dream.
It's a dream.
A dream.
Okay.
A sad, depressing dream that is so close, because if like Jack Luke would just work on it for like 3 weeks, he would just do it. It was so easy.
Yeah, Jack, you heard it.
Yeah, Jack is probably watching this. Jack, just do it. Come on, just do it.
Just
I know
do
you
it.
can do it.
Riggers are the MVPs. Look at that, you're getting so much love. Okay, so what is next for you on the? Do you plan to continue working on Cloud Rig?
Yes, for sure. So I'm super happy with Cloud Rig. I want to make it less of a bastardized version of Rigify, and I want to actually push those things up to Rigify, because currently like Cloud Rig is it has to hack around a lot of things in a very ugly way. And it's not very compatible with like the Rigify idea. It's kind of, it's a bit satanic basically. Someone's asking about the video tutorials, and I think we should just release those like really soon. I don't know when, but like they are done. They're
The
just
coming weeks
waiting.
after is part
Yeah.
of your Sprite Fright content.
Yeah, so now we're going to be pushing out probably all kinds of Sprite Fright stuff, you know, assets and characters and tutorials and stuff. So it's going to come hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I
Yeah,
hope.
before the end of the
hope
year,
for
before
Jesper.
Blender 3 comes out.
Before Blender 3, sure. When is Blender 3?
Next month.
Okay.
No, wait. December first couple of weeks of December.
Okay, fine. So let's make promises. We
Yes.
promise you Cloud Rig videos before 3.0,
Yes.
I think. Which is actually maybe kind of foolish, because the Cloud Rig videos and Cloud Rig only works in 3.0.
So,
Maybe we do have a good reason then to hold on to it a bit longer. But anyways.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for dropping by. I
Thank
hope
you,
to see
Pablo.
you more of your face at the.
Thank you, chat. I love you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, I get out of here. Who do
Thank
you
you,
want?
Matt. Yeah, I guess we can get. There is another rare animal dropping by. You may have heard from him from the. You got some fans here. So, hereby we have. If you're subscribed to the cloud, you may have seen the shading. Not shading. What's it called? Shading, procedural shading training on the Blender Cloud, Blender Studio website, made by you together with some examples from November. We are gonna be enter November in like a couple of days. I don't know how excited you are about
Coming
that.
up so early, I thought it would take a while until you were speaking about November.
Yeah, no, I started with a bang. Okay, let's roll back a bit. And first, how are you?
I'm good.
Good,
I'm
good.
super glad that Sprite Fright is out.
Yes.
People like it, as far as I can tell. I like it.
Okay, so for
Happy
people
with
that
it.
don't know, Simon Thomas is a nodes wizard. How would you describe what you do and what you have done for Sprite Fright? Because you're really involved with the Geometry Nodes project, but Sprite
Yeah.
Fright started even before. So, what do you do? What could you say you did?
I mean, I was the guy that did all the shading. That was like my main thing. But just because I like to just find creative solutions with procedural systems for all sorts of stuff, I was also doing a bunch of effects work, and just also with the set dressing, like because we were also involved. I was also involved with the first iterations of designing the geometry nodes. Just making those systems work for us to do some set dressing, like scattering leaves around, scattering moss, and I mean that was really cool to be able to actually have that first iteration of geometry nodes really be used directly while it's an alpha, and really have the shape that we needed to have to use it.
Do you
I think
think?
that's mutually beneficial. For
Yeah,
both.
you also get to test to test
Yes.
geometry nodes. And do you think the what you have done with geometry nodes you could have done it without, or like was geometry nodes just used because it was there? Or?
I mean, there's one point was obviously just pushing the development of geometry nodes with this, but in the end, I used it in all those different places in the project where I wasn't planning on doing anything with geometry nodes, and it's all over the place. In all the things I ended up doing, I used geometry nodes for something because it's just so useful to be able to really have this super flexible workflow procedurally. And I mean, I'm used to this workflow anyways, so for me it was very familiar. But I think just in general, it gives all those new possibilities that weren't possible before.
Yeah. Which one is one shot your favorite that you use geometry nodes in? If I can get
Which shot?
Which shot is?
I mean,
your
I was using the geometry nodes for the melting effects.
for the melting effects.
Yes. So the melting mushrooms. So there's a bunch of those. I basically used the same. I mean, that was the cool thing. I could just use the exact same setup on the different shots. But I mean, if you're asking like this, basically every shot has geometry nodes.
Every shot.
Because
Because
all
of
of the leaves in the background are scattered with geometry. Oh no, yeah, all of them are leaves scattered
On the
with geometry
trees.
nodes.
Yeah.
On the trees, on the bushes.
The grass.
Everything that you see scattered somewhere is using geometry nodes.
Wow.
So unless it's manually placed, but the rest is all using geometry nodes. We have not
The
used.
hair?
The hair is also using
the beard.
geometry nodes.
Wow.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, the beard of Elder Sprite is using geometry nodes because
But why?
I wanted to. So we wanted to have. That's actually a good thing to talk about. I think we wanted to not have all these deformations as he's moving his mouth, but rather have his mouth like shift through the beard
As he talks.
as he talks. Yeah, if you just play it, you can see that it's moving a little bit, but it's not deforming everything completely.
Ah, yeah.
And the way that is achieved is with geometry nodes. So all these little fuzzy hairs are scattered with geometry nodes as particles, as a point cloud first. And then we had in the rig a culling object that's just surrounding the mouth. And every point that was in that mesh just gets deleted.
Yeah.
Because it's procedural geometry nodes, every frame has a new evaluation of that system. So we can just throw away the points that we don't need. And then the mouth doesn't have hair in it.
And
The mouth is just floating through the fuzzy ball, basically.
It's just stable for
Yes.
some reason. It's just
It is stable because that's something geometry nodes were designed for in the first place, because there was
Unlike
a
the
big
old-
issue with the old system.
with the old particle
Yeah.
system.
That was one of the big points in geometry nodes early development, to
I'm
not have it flicker around
To
all
not
the
have
time.
it, like one of the goals.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this one. Is this geometry nodes?
No, this is actually you mean the Slimer on the snail?
No, the
Oh, the snails.
all
This
the
is
snails.
geometry nodes.
Really?
Yeah.
So like instances.
It's realized actually. So
realized.
the it's scattered with instances first, and for the viewport I just kept it in instances because it was just overkill otherwise.
Yeah.
But I made a system where the snails would also, after they are scattered on the body, like wrap around the curvature of the skin, because if you have a snail just sitting on here, it looks very artificial when it's just a flat bottom.
Yeah. So you have to
it's-
shrink
it's
wrap it.
realized- Exactly, and then it shrink wraps just around the arm.
Oh
So
wow.
you can maybe see that here a little bit. But
On the bottom.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But the ones on the head are not geometry nodes because they actually are animated by the animators directly.
They're hand animated. Yeah.
Yeah, because they like blink and move around. For the other ones, Rick made 3 walk cycles, and then for all of the snails that are scattered on there, I picked one of the walk cycles, so they actually just move a little bit.
Wow. Yeah, and doing this by hand without geometry nodes would have been.
That would have been a pain, yes.
Yeah.
It was already a little bit of a pain because the character, in one shot he's still, so that's not an issue.
Yeah.
In another one, he's falling down. So that was relatively tricky to do with geometry nodes because it has to all be stable while he's falling. but I think I in the end used a combination of that and shrink surface deform, which is not in geometry nodes yet. Eventually caching will be in there, and then it's going to be all geometry nodes, I guess.
May I ask if this is geometry nodes? You know what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to?
About
The simulation.
the
Is
simulation? Oh no, that's
No, that's not geometry nodes. Okay.
no, that would be overkill.
I don't know.
Oh, you mean the streams?
the streams? Yes.
The streams themselves, I think it's just modifiers.
Just modify. Like a
I think
mesh.
Andy
Mesh.
did those, and
Ah.
it's just, as far as I know, yeah, it's just a curve with a tiny segment of a cylinder with an array modifier is following the curve,
Yeah.
and then there's a texture mapped on top of it that's moving, so it looks like
And
it's
it's
actually
displacing it. Yeah.
exactly it's displacing it.
Wow. That's super cool. Do you have any planned tutorials making of explanations maybe of what you use geometry nodes for here? Is it even worth it now? Because I don't think it's fields. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because there was such a huge difference with the fields now, and it was very late into the production, we had to actually split off the branch. So that was one of the reasons why we needed to split off the branch for the production, like in the last month or so.
Yeah.
So the things would definitely change how they are done now with fields. But I mean, the concepts are still the same.
Oh, thank you.
Sweets. Thank you very much.
Um,
I mean, there's definitely content coming.
Yeah.
I'm planning because maybe now we can talk about it. I am going to do at least a little bit of November. We'll see how much I can pull through. I mean, they decreased the number of prompts from 30 to 15, which is
it's every other day there will be
Yeah.
a new one. So
it's
you
very
are
good
going-
because it's just overkill otherwise. Because you
But-
want to top yourself, right? You wanna
Of
make it
course, of
better.
course. And do you plan to do that as part of your day job?
Maybe you can make it work. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool.
We can convince maybe the boss.
Exactly.
If you make a content and you make it available on the cloud, it will
Yeah. No, I'll definitely try to do that. And I mean, it's just going to be good to finally actually use fields because I spent all that time together with Jack and Dalai and you actually looking at the design of fields and going through the whole process of redesigning the whole thing. But I never really got to use it because once it's done, we were in crunch phase for the
Yeah,
for the
true.
film with the branch. So I was always using the old system. It was kind of frustrating because I knew there's a better system out there, but I couldn't use it.
Oh no, that one is
But
tough one.
that's going to be really exciting to actually get to use it once, and then I can also get back more into the development of geometry nodes again. Just
That
get my
is great to
feedback and
hear.
everything.
If you didn't know, Simon's also is a module member of the Geometry Nodes module. Well, Nodes module in general, but more of the Geometry Nodes side of things. So if it's as awesome, if the system is as awesome as it is, it's thanks to the developers and artists, technical artists, because you also
There's a whole lot of people there.
the whole group,
working
yes.
with it, yeah.
So please don't make a course of fields. People are asking. So yeah, fields.
Yeah, I'll definitely do some content on the cloud on the Blender Studio website
Yeah.
For fields, for sure.
Okay, well, thank you, Simon, for dropping by.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to have you here. I hope to see more of you. You also been streaming? You plan
Oh yeah,
to stream?
I was thinking about doing some streaming during November. I don't know how much I can actually do with that, but
Just turn on the
some-
camera. Look, we are
Yeah.
here. Says remove the Sprite Fright logo or
yeah,
leave
it's
it there.
just you never know how long it's gonna take, and then you end up with like 16 hours of work
Oh yes.
in one go.
Hey, it's live stream. Okay, well, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
So clap, clap, clap. That was Simon Thomas, Geometry Nodes / module member of the Geometry Nodes, so also involved with development. But to talk about development itself, we have a doctor in the house, developer. Maybe you can sit here, and that's the where you should talk. And this
That's
is
where
for
she
you.
talked too.
So hello, I also know heard that besides developing, you also make curry.
I did. I have. I've been cooking today since lunch
Wow, for how many people?
for about 26 people.
Wow.
2 big pots of green Thai curry, and it worked. I was
Ew.
amazed. I've never cooked for that many people a curry, but it worked.
Happy to hear. So, how about the film itself? So you were involved with the team.
Yep.
In which module? Which area?
Animation and rigging module, and mostly working on the pose library. So it's a special mode of the asset browser, which now also got into Blender 3.0.
Yes.
As of last Wednesday, it's in. But Post Library has been the first non-experimental feature in there, which means that animators can just click on faces and hand poses, and it just works.
Yes, you actually wrote a blog post, right?
I did.
On the code blog.
code.blender.org/date/something. I think it's on the next page already.
Oh, it's already.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
There you
actions
go.
here, Post Library. So, yep. If guys are familiar with this, there is you made even the videos explaining. So this also has changed a little bit here, right? It has changed a bit of the user interface, but the way of how it worked, it hasn't changed.
The way it works hasn't changed. The concept behind what is an asset hasn't changed, and we didn't need to change it. It just works nicely. Can everybody at home see your screen now?
Certainly, yes. Yeah,
Good,
they can
good.
see it here.
Because one thing that did change is that list that you see in the middle of the window. Yeah, that one. The scenes, animations, objects, and collections. That was never meant to be permanent. Now it was turned into a collections. No, catalogs.
Catalogs, yes.
So instead of this fixed list, you can make your own catalogs. You can nest them. You can drag them around. You can rename them.
Yes.
And this is something Julian Eisel and I have been working on for the past months. One of the things.
One of the many things.
One of the many, many things.
Yes. Wow, 3.1 already. They say.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's in
the top as a browser.
As a browser, and here's the explanation. This is how it used to look, and
Yep.
this here we should have at some point the
If not,
catalogs.
we should add it.
Okay, but it's there actually if you're
Oh,
down
there
on Blender.
the catalogs.
Oh, there's an entire section about catalogs.
Yeah, with all the technical documentation and not a single screenshot.
Okay, but what better screenshot than just going into blender.org and download the latest the latest build, because it's there and it's part of 3.0.
It is, totally. And I'm really happy how it worked out. One of the last things I did on it was actually having sort of a multiplayer support so that we could be working on the same set of catalogs. You could be renaming some things. I could be adding different catalogs and doing my own work. As long as we don't mess around with the same catalogs at the same time, it will be synced. It will all survive. Even though the catalogs are stored in the same file, they're not stored in the blend file, they're stored in a file next to the blend files.
How does it even happen? Well, so it kind of diffs it and it just...
Every time you save, it first loads it, sees if there was anything removed or added or changed that you didn't touch. If that is so, it will just load everything in. But if you touch something, then it will just keep that around, even though somebody else also changed it or maybe removed it. If you touched it, it's safe on your machine. And then when it's saved, it goes back into the file.
Magic. So, as a browser, animation and rigging module, what is next for you to work? Well, now it's probably the bug fixing phase, right?
Yeah.
It's 3.0, getting it stable for the release in December. But in the future, you're gonna still be part of the animation and rigging module?
Absolutely, yeah.
But also you've been involved with the asset browser. Are you gonna move more into animation itself, animation tools, or you like the asset browser?
There's a few things in the asset browser that we really want to do, but animation is more at my heart. So that's what I really want to work on. It could be, but we have to discuss internally here in the studio. It could be that I could be working on flamenco as well.
The render.
Just a few months in between Blender projects, because also for flamenco we have some ideas to change things around, to make it more resilient, to being completely offline with your studio, to make it much easier to deploy, so also people at home don't need that impossible to deploy flamenco server component. So things will be easier, simpler, more resilient. And I would love to work on that also for a month or two.
Yeah, wow, it's just so much fun to completely different things too, like render and management and animation. But you also, as part of the animation rigging module, you also have meetings which you share online.
Yeah.
And I find that pretty cool. So in the animation and rigging section, you have here the meeting notes, so people can see what the team is already discussing. team being developers, but also artists. Like
Yeah,
animators.
we have more artists than developers in the module at the moment.
Wow.
So if you want to start developing in Blender, like, come talk to me. Because we are looking for more developers to help with animation and rigging tools.
And do they need to be like, I don't know, do they need to know math? Do they need to know UI? Do they need, or just general?
Just general, there are lots of tasks and to-dos that we've already basically thought out. So there's this list of to-dos that are approved ideas that you can just start
Pick up.
working on. You can pick it up, start working on it. Sometimes some people don't finish patches. Like, they can do some work, they try to get something in, but then the rest of their life catches up with them and they have to abandon it for some reason. So like recently somebody just picked up one of those patches that was laying around because he really thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
So he put a bow tie on it, handed it to us, it got into Blender 3.
That's so cool. So is so for animation and rigging, this, if I'm a developer, I know Python, can I still get in, or do I need to know C, C++?
Well, if you look at Mater's new mesh-based animation rigging system, that is all made in Python.
Yeah.
And he's been struggling with it, and it doesn't perform quite well. So it's not a final thing. But having that in Python, it is brilliant already, and it helps so much to see such a prototype. And then everybody is thinking about the same thing because they're seeing the same thing happening. They can toy around with it. It's much easier to develop that way.
Yeah.
And once that is all fleshed out and all the ideas have been approved or agreed upon, then you get another developer to work on the C or C++ implementation. But if all the thinking has already happened, that implementation work is also much easier to do.
Yeah, you already have the prototype. How you know how it should work? How it
Exactly.
should look. Yeah.
Exactly.
So a lot of guesswork is done. Probably for some people must be the best examples because it's just it's like, okay, you gotta translate
Yeah.
from one
Yeah.
language to the other.
And these are interesting challenges, yeah.
Yeah.
But also drop by on Blender Chat on the animation-module channel. There's lots of people there. If you have questions about development, pop over. If you have any questions about how to do stuff, there's also the Blender Developers channel on Blender Chat. Way more developers there who will all happily help you out on how to approach things.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop by in the channel. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for dropping
My
by.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I can't wait to try your curry if there is anything left.
Marit put some little bits for you apart.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Yes, gotta continue working here. I don't know who else wants to be in the show. Thank you. Clap, 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 clap. How is it going? Is there anybody watching, by the way? I'm just just talking to myself, maybe. Oh no, it's like 200 people. Okay. So, did I get everyone? Do you wanna be famous? There's 200 people. You ready for this?
Yes, okay.
Okay, cool. So we got another artist all the way from the kitchen again.
Hi.
Actually from Utrecht.
Yes.
Hello, Bo.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Who are you? Why are you here? And what did you
I asked
do
myself
for?
the same question.
What did you do for Sprite Fright? He's not the first time. Maybe the first time that you see Bo, but he's
Maybe.
also been involved in the Agent 327 project
Yes.
back in
2016, I think.
say
2016.
16, 17.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, well, I'm a lighting artist here at Blender. Speak up here. Okay.
No, it's just it's not on your face.
Okay, cool. Before this, I worked on a different project, freelance-based, for a series for Amazon, and so yeah, I just do lighting stuff here.
You do lighting stuff.
Lighting
so
stuff.
which what do you which
the Grove,
shots?
for instance.
Grove. Which one is that?
No, that's Village. So one before.
One before.
Yes. So this is the entire sequence, basically.
This entire sequence.
Yeah. I worked on multiple shots, but this is like the whole sequence. I could do my own, which is really, really cool. I really love doing that. Very educational in a way. And I learn a lot of new things. So Well.
By cycles, you are familiar with cycles?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, not necessarily technical things, but more like story-wise and focusing more on cinematic lighting. You know, which means like cheating a lot. A lot of cheats are involved here and there. But basically, what I did was with the shop builder add-on, we built the shots, and then started to basically fill the setup a bit with background trees. I mean, Julian created the the layout, basically, the environments. And then, of course, Iman with the shading, and Andy as well. I mean, but then I basically wrap it all up in a nice package and send it. That's kind of
to
what
the
I
render
do.
farm and
To
back.
the render farm, yes, exactly. So while working on the sequence, for instance, I was rendering perhaps half of the sequence every day, at the lower quality, of course, so just to see how the lighting, how it works, if everything is
Every
readable.
day?
Yeah, like every day, new renders on the farm. And then, I mean, not the entire sequence, but most of the shots.
But a number of shots, and then you
Yes.
just iterate again and then again.
Yeah, that was the way we started iterating, and worked really well. Of course, it takes a lot of render time and computing. We also have different methods, but this way it was more interactive in a way.
Yeah, and I actually forgot to mention that you guys every day at 11 you have a
Yes.
art meeting.
Yes, there are.
So you every day in the morning, first thing you do is get together, see the renders that other people worked on, give feedback. How long are these meetings?
It depends if Matthew attended the meetings.
Oh, okay,
I'm
director.
trying to say
Yeah.
something bad about Matthew. No, it was really
no.
fun. But it could be like an hour, maybe shorter. It depends on the things we're working on. What's going on?
That's good.
What's this? What am I wearing? I cannot see myself.
You
here.
there.
Oh, wow.
Is that a squid?
Yeah, it's a squid.
Squid game.
really
there you go.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
So
What's it going with? Oh, yeah.
the we're talking about the meetings. Yeah. So these meetings, I think they're invaluable.
Well,
Right.
well, basically, it's essential for the 3D team to get together and discuss what we're working on. Because after the meeting, we sometimes, visit each other's desk and talk about stuff. But that's like the moment where everyone works on for the entire day, basically.
Yeah.
And it's very crucial to just look at what everyone did. So we take turns, and then basically discuss stuff. Like, of course, Andy's the art director, so he would give a lot of feedback. And sometimes when it was good, we gave less, of course. So it just depended on the tasks and what we were doing. Yeah,
Wow.
that's how it worked.
People say they love your work. Cool lighting. Great
Cool.
work. Congrats.
Thank you, guys.
Actually, it would be good to have some good lighting tutorials in Blender Studio. Do
Oh,
you
wow.
plan to do any?
I mean, I learned everything from Andy, so. But
hey,
I
you need to
I
share
could. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can show you the Magic Shadow Caster, which is like an inside joke here at Blender. So
Oh,
the next move is going to be Shadow Caster.
Shadowcaster.
It's basically an object that you can't see, but it casts a shadow, so we can darken areas. I mean, there are a lot of shadow casters here in the scene right now, and
Like here, all over, just to cast shadows
Yeah,
in
just to
specific
cast
places.
shadows.
Like
exactly. So we want to simulate the feeling of leaves.
yeah.
And for instance, there might be a tree in the background or an object. Sometimes like a dandelion, dandelion
Yeah.
is yellow in our case, and that's quite bright. So if a light shines on a dandelion, we had to tone it down by using shadow casters.
So you just drop an invisible plane on top of it.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. And basically, the strategy was fixing everything before comp as much as possible, and not say, okay, well, we're gonna do that later or fix it later. It was
Oh
like,
yeah, how much comp is there in this shot? Like in this here,
I'm
are
not
they all in
sure.
one? Like, is it F12 and it looks like this?
These shots are, but I mean, of course, there's additional color grading and some tweaks, maybe, but not a lot.
Somebody mentioned Shadowcast.
Yes, the Shadowcaster.
All right.
Yeah. See, inside joke. So
Inside joke, yeah. The Shadowcaster.
The Shadowcaster.
That's crazy. So not like linking. Hey,
No light linking. It might.
No,
it would be
I-
awesome to
it
have
would be
it.
amazing. Like
It would
here,
completely change the process as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe. So
in this other production that you worked before, joining here, did you use other renderers or Blender?
Blender, everything was in Blender.
Wow.
With cycles, yeah. But we had completely different like pipeline and stuff, so it's not at all like this.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
looking forward to the
Yeah.
tutorials that you will make.
Yeah, maybe.
Will make.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
hopefully.
okay. I'm
Eventually.
gonna make.
No, at least like walkthroughs, because all these, most of these shots are gonna be nicely packed, and it will be maybe a good opportunity to just download one of those and maybe talk about it.
Yes, it would.
A walkthrough of the lighting and your lighting process. We
Yeah,
don't have enough.
definitely.
There's not enough lighting tutorials in the community either.
Yes, I mean especially for cinematic lighting.
Yeah, especially in the
Yeah.
more of like not just a cube.
Yeah, not like I'm gonna add like a 3-point lighting setup. It's more than that.
And for animation, because lighting
Yes.
a single static shot is not the same as for animation.
Completely different.
Completely
yes.
different process.
Because you have to take into account like if Ellie in some shots she moves like this, of course the values are going to change, so you need to compensate for that, and that's why you have to render the entire shot, and that's the way we could achieve the results, because of iterating that way, like render the whole sequence on every shot,
Yeah,
not
and the
just
characters-
stay at one frame.
And the characters moving through the shadowcasters
Yes,
also is another
it's a
tricky
problem. So if a character would intersect with a shadowcaster, it will create like a black line. We had that a couple of times. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't always check the viewport. You know, we just focused on lighting, but sometimes it could happen.
It could happen.
Yeah.
And also, like if the lighting is coming from this direction and in
Yeah.
the next shot comes from here,
Yes.
then you
It
get
should be
continuity.
consistent.
So,
yeah. So for this shot, by the way, if I can wrap this up, but
Yeah.
when could you play it?
Yes.
Like this part where Ellie's face gets darker, it's like to compensate for her going into the bushes. So there's like a
So it's on purpose.
yeah,
that
it's like a transition. I mean, it's a bit brighter in this shot, but it's also for readability, right? That is cinematic lighting. Is that it's not always consistent, but it should be all about readability and getting the story through to the viewer. Yeah.
Nice storytelling with light.
Yes, I mean that's super important.
Lighting the hair. Yeah, how did you light the hair? Did you do anything special? It's just a great shader.
Oh yes, well Ellie's hair is quite dark, so we had to bump up the rim lights basically. So her ponytail, for instance, that's all rim lights, and the basically on the far side, the screen left, her hair is a bit more like in a mid-tone. That's like a fill light. So we use fill lights to brighten up the shadows, for instance. And that's basically what you see. I mean, different lights. I mean, I am actually preparing something, not like a tutorial, but more like a,
Thank you.
more like a, what would you call it? Like a making for the making of. So people will get more an insight into the techniques we used, and also the strategy to, have a consistent color for each light and a function for each light, which is very important. Yeah.
Awesome. Which one? Okay, now before closing, somebody's asking which one was the most and the least complex scene to light. Is in Spanish.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Which one would you say there was the? Is it when there's many characters, or is it when there is?
Yeah, many characters is different because you have to, for instance, this shot, you have to decide who has the priority. So Ellie has the priority right now, but then Rex pushes her back. So you need to make sure that when that happens, that all the characters are lit in a very purposefully way. So for instance, Phil isn't that important, so he's not all bright. And Rex, when he steps forward, he steps into the light, which
Yeah.
is like a priority, of course, for story-wise.
And that they're not casting shadow on each other.
Exactly, that's also another thing, and that's why we use fill lights. So if it would happen, the fill lights could also compensate a bit for that, but that's something we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Wow, that's amazing. But by looking at this shot, I would have guessed that you use compositing, like each one on its own render view layer or something like that, but no.
It's possible, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, but yeah, awesome.
But
Wow,
like, but
great to
yeah,
hear.
I don't know the most complex shots. I have no idea. I mean, the shot. It's difficult to say. I think the most simple shots are the shots where almost nothing happens, I would say. But the most complex shots are probably the shots in the grove when they enter the grove. That was actually quite a challenging shot.
Wow.
It's like the first shots in this.
It's
So when they enter, so the bird flies off her hand, of her hands, and then she flies. Yeah, this no. This one was quite challenging because a lot of characters are in darkness, and we have to make sure that they enter the light properly. Earlier versions, Victoria was very brightly lit,
Here?
which doesn't make any sense because it's not important. We need to read Rex because he's saying something,
Yeah.
and then Phil and Jay, and that's how you kind of need to go through these shots.
Wow, but she's a protagonist,
Yeah,
so
she's
she
still
should
lit.
always be lit.
She is separated from the background with rim lights, for instance.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
thank you for doing such a deep dive into the lighting of Sprite Fright. I almost call it Sprites. Do you call it Sprites in the team?
What?
The folder is called Sprites.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was Bo. Can we see some of your work online?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
you have?
On my ArtStation, it's somewhat outdated, but if you search CGXEV, so CGXEV,
XEV.
and then you can visit my ArtStation. page.
Okay, and you should be uploading some of this stuff.
Yeah,
It's pretty common, you know?
it's true. I should update my reel as well.
You can
so-
upload the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
cool.
is what I made. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for
thanks a lot.
dropping by. All right, that was another artist's part of the team. I think what do you call a TD? It's a technical director, but it's also artist. You're an artist at heart. Here we have all the way from the chair next to the screen. We have Paul. Hello, Paul. How are you? We have clappers even. Okay, so hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very good.
Yeah.
Enjoying the last day of our project. Everything's relaxed now. Pipeline, works.
Pipeline-wise, so
everything is ported, everything final. So that's great.
it is. I think this is probably the first open moving project where we have an official with a title TD, and it's so needed in the production. What would you say that you did for this project? Like, what was your day to day?
Well, I pretty much coded all day, and it was quite nice for me as well because I could work on smaller projects in a 4 weeks interval. So basically, I developed Blender add-ons all the time that make the life of the artist easier and better.
Dream.
Yeah, and we have a whole repository now called the Blender Studio Tools, and they are basically all the stuff I did the last half year is in there, more or less. And so these were all little add-ons that we used throughout the production. We have the Blender Kitsu one, for example. So that's a Blender add-on where people could log into Kitsu inside of Blender and upload play blasts, and a lot of cool tools for the sequence editor as well, which kept our edit in Blender and in the sequence editor in sync. Then we have the contact sheet add-on, which could create a contact sheet out of sequence editor strips, and
So
people would create these wonderful grid views. And this was especially used by the lighting people to, review their sequence basically and have one look at the whole thing and see, okay, do the colors match? Do we have nice transitions between the shots and everything? That was quite nice. And a bunch of other stuff as well. I think it was at least 4, 5, 6 add-ons that are all in the Blender Studio Tools. So here there are only a couple of them. But yeah, so that was quite cool.
Yeah. So this is called Blender Studio Tools, but are they only applicable to Blender Studio, or anybody can use them? How much hard coding is in there?
Yes. So some of them are quite hard coded, but some of them I try to keep intentionally general. So for example, the contact sheet add-on, the Blender Purge add-on, as well as the Blender Kitsu add-on actually are quite general. So I hope people can literally just download it, install it, and use it for their projects. So that should be possible. But other stuff that is in the Blender Studio Tools, for example, I think it's called the add-in setup and the render review thing, they are quite specific to our pipeline.
But getting into the code and changing them, because they are open source, of course, that wouldn't be for someone that already knows a bit of Python. They can get in familiar.
Absolutely doable, yes.
Cool. You even got a patch in Blender.
Yeah.
Blender 3.0.
First Blender patch ever, which is very exciting. Actually got a second one as well, so I'm going in strong.
You're going up, at some point we're gonna have to hire a TD because you're gonna be full-time developer.
Well, no, who knows? But yeah, that was pretty exciting, so I could also start to dig my hands into C a little bit the last couple of weeks. Yeah, super cool stuff. And this is the best place to learn with all the smart Blender devs around and
Yeah.
asking people directly. So that's great.
And you joined for this project for the first time, actually. Did you follow the previous projects online?
Yes, I followed them. But yeah, sure. For working at Blender, it's definitely the first time now. Living in Amsterdam the first time.
First time.
Exciting.
And you plan to stay? I have no idea about the status. You plan to stay and hang out here?
Well, I am still here until March. So I guess we'll have like a lot of wrapping up stuff now, writing documentation, and making everything nice and presentable. And then we'll see which next projects are coming up. Who knows?
Yeah. What is something you would like to work on? Like all of this maybe came from needs from the team.
Yes.
Do you like that approach, or like the team needs a contact sheet add-on and then you make it, or do you also like? Well, yeah, you did also the first Blender app template.
Ooh, right.
But it's not like one of the built-in ones like sculpting.
Yeah.
You made one for playing back stuff.
Yeah.
There is no blog post. Do you plan to?
I think there should be stuff coming soon.
There should
so
be, yeah.
Keep tuned. Keep in
Yeah,
tune.
if you follow the videos on this channel, the Blender Studio channel, you may have seen the weeklies and people using something that looks like Blender but not. For well, actually, they see your presentations about this Blender app thingy, but looking forward to something like that. Again, sorry, I interrupt you.
I mean, if I could really choose what to work on, like totally freely, without any restrictions, I think, because currently I feel like our pipeline is made up of a lot of different add-ons, and it would be really exciting to sort of take a step back and really from the ground up, build sort of a more broader pipeline that maybe all these tools kind of interact with each other. They're like cool concepts at the moment, like a very trendy thing in pipeline stuff is building everything as microservices and stuff. So that's things I want to really learn and look into. And if I could look into that would be awesome. Like especially the whole pipeline build up from microservices.
Well, around Blender, of course.
Yes, of course.
Or in Blender.
Or in Blender, who knows? Yeah. No, that would be really exciting. But also, I'm really interested in web stuff. Also, I kind of want to learn C, so there's so much to learn. It's really hard to decide.
Yes, you're at the right place at least to do that and get a huge audience for testing your products.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to all things you're gonna be making the next 4 or 5 months here in the studio.
Totally.
And to first, I wanted to thank you not only for being here, but also for writing blog posts about all of that. Because just one thing is just to code. The other one is to present it in a nice way. So thanks for making docs.
Thank you. No worries.
Okay.
All right.
Looking forward to see your content on the blog.
Yes.
And thank you for dropping by.
Thank you. All right. See you guys.
Right. Clap, 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 clap. All right. The last guest is all the way. You know this one. You know this one. You may also seen it. It's a YouTube star on the Blender Developers YouTube channel.
Hello.
Sorry, Sharibin.
Hello. I didn't know it happened, so
yes,
it's like a bit of casual. Don't have my
casualty. You're in all channels. You were in Blender today for Cycles X presentation. You stream your work on actually developing on Blender Developers blog. Now you're at the Blender Studio. Yeah. What did you do for the movie? Would you say? Besides Blender.
Besides Blender, good question. Besides Blender, the past 2 days were quite intense things to get the package for the cinema to work.
The DCP.
The DCP, the famous DCP, get the color spaces correct and things like that. So we thought we started ahead of the time, right? And we should be ready. And then, of course, we needed to tweak some credits because they were generated after the final grade was done. So it's like, okay, so we need to export the special open JPEG in XYZ, the DCI-P3 format, right? And of course, during Agent 327, we made it so that we can do it. It's like, and then we just open the Blender, open the sequence, select XYZ display. It's like, wait, hold up a minute. Where is the DCI view of the XYZ display thing? And then it's like, oh. We've lost one during 2.80 transition.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, when we were redoing all the filmic integration
Yeah.
and few other things, cleaning up the color management, it's like, people didn't really know what the DCI is all about, how to test it, and it's like, I don't remember anyone asking me. So it's like they're just like, oh, we don't really know, so let's just like put it on hold for now. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, years later, okay, let's quickly.
Hack it in.
Well, we pretty much knew at that point what we need to do and where to copy the lookup tables and whatnot.
And is that something for Blender itself, or it was just something just to get it over with?
I would like to get it to the Blender itself. So, what is most likely to happen? I'm not sure. Like it's probably 3.1 because we got branched already. So what I would like to do is at a very minimum bring it to the same level as we used to have it in 279 during Agent. Ideally, we will do it more correct to support filmic in XYZ space as well. So then you can export your OpenXR sequences to the cinema display.
From within Blender.
From within Blender, yes. Okay, so color space, okay, it's easy. One evening we'll just like the type, right? Okay, then we do the test DCP and then it doesn't work. It's like, why doesn't it work? Well, because we need to have the cinema checkbox somewhere. It's like, okay, simple enough. Cinema checkbox done. Export, okay, with the local player plays it fine. No, doesn't complain anything. Send it to the projectionists in the cinema, and they're like, there's stuttering at the end of the credits, and we're like, what is it? Like, what? And then it's like, well, what could it possibly be? Like, what's the difference? Like, okay, those frames are about 600 kilobytes, those are 1300 kilobytes. It's like, okay, so that was the size, right? So it's like, okay, we just need to make the OpenJPEG smaller. And guess what? There is a quality slider,
Like
right?
compress it more.
Yeah, so we just like put the slider from 90 to 80% export. It's like they're the same exact size. It's like what? Like how?
Was it not taking into account?
It's like, okay, it cannot be true. Well, maybe 80 and 90 too close. 0% export, same exact size. Like, okay,
No.
okay, Blender, you're doing something weird. You're just trolling me, right? And then it's like, okay, so how do you know what's going on? Of course, you get to the source checkout folder and go to the source Blender image buffer intern gp2.c. As I can read the code, it's like, oh, when I have the cinema checkbox enabled, it forces special type of bitrate, ignoring the slider. It's like, no, come
Oh,
on.
hard-coded.
Yeah, and without any interface feedback. So it's like, oh, come on. And then it's like, okay, so what do we do? It's okay, so we just need to recompress them. And then we just use like some, like I think we use DCP-O-Matic to recompress that sequence and whatnot, and then package everything. And it was already an evening of the day where we had the test projections scheduled. So at the moment we did the final thing, we couldn't show it in the cinema as a test thing anymore. So it's like on Thursday morning. It's well, because on Wednesday evening we sent it to the projection.
Thursday we had the premiere yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
So yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning, it's like you wake up, you run to the studio, hoping for Francesco being here, because he's the contact person with the cinema.
The film, yeah, cinema.
Yeah, with the cinema where we've been. It's like, hey, Francesco, do we have result? It's like, do we? And it's like, no, they didn't say anything yet. It's like, oh man, it's like anticipation.
The suspense is killing.
The suspense is killing, yes. And then, oh yeah, they mailed. They say it works. It's like, wait, did they watch the entire thing? Did they know to check this final part of the credits? It's like, well, we wouldn't know that. It's like they say it works. It's like, okay, so.
So you just went and hoped for the best.
We went and hoped for
guy.
the best. With this guy, we went half an hour before the official screening, and then it's like they quickly showed it us. It's like, and then you just see the credits like scrolling smoothly without any stuttering and everything. It's like, whew. And then other thing was under our audio, like
Audio design?
Audio design?
Sound design, sorry.
Sound design. He wanted to check something and in the middle of the movie to see if the volumes are all fine. And then it's like I didn't notice that he was asking some specific things, and I started, from my perspective, I started playing the movie from the beginning, and then there is the opening credits, and then there is in the middle
Chop,
of
yeah.
Well, not chop, like
The
okay,
credits, yeah.
spoiler alert. So after the credit there is cut to the fight, and me like, did we forget to export half of the movie?
No.
It's like, oh my god, it's like what's that? And then okay, they stopped it, and it's like, Francesco, what was that about? It's like, did we have we lost the movie in the transition?
What you would expect, after 13 movies, you would have nailed it.
I know, right? It's like, no, there is always something new, and this issue of bandwidth, I don't remember ever having it.
Yeah.
Because we exported so many things, and we just kept the bandwidth on default 200 megabits a second.
Yeah.
And system was always just handling it, but for this movie, this specific shot,
I was actually wanted to ask you, I didn't even know all this DCP nightmare, but did you also develop other stuff for Sprite Fright? Like, I know some shots are in Cycles X.
Yes. So for the most of the project, I've been working with Brecht on Cycles X, which we couldn't deploy fully to the movie because it was not ready yet, and all those feel and look was designed for Cycles. And there are some certain things which will look differently, so we didn't want to put the entire production of Cycles X. Although the opening sequence, Andy rendered using Cycles X on his computer locally on his GPU.
No way.
Yeah, I think the trees in the beginning, and I'm not sure where it stops. Like trees in the beginning, totally.
So this is Cycles X?
This is Cycles X.
How do you tell? Well, I guess Sprite Fright was maybe a great example and a test suite for you.
It's very good, and there are like still a lot of shots where we've been fighting a noise a lot, and it's not yet solved by Cycles X. Although it's not fully solved, but certain things looks better with the different denoiser and stuff like that. But there is definitely room for improvement still.
And render times were much faster than Agent, for example, or
render
Spring.
times are way better than on Spring, and Andy was running on a GPU, and that was a blast. It was rendering like as if there is nothing.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool to see.
Next film, full GPU.
Yeah.
So Eevee, no, I'm kidding. No, Cycles X. Maybe not the next, some of the next one. But yeah, okay. Did you, Blender went beta on Wednesday. I think we need to wrap up in a bit, but
yes,
I'm curious. Blender went beta 2 days ago?
Yes,
2 days ago?
2 days ago.
Wednesday?
Yeah. Wednesday evening, yeah.
So Cycles X is in the hands of people. Did you get feedback? Did you get a bag of bugs?
Well, we had, because we merged Cycles X in September, I think it was second week of September or something, and that's when we officially opened Backtracker for submissions, and by now, I think we tackled majority of them. There is 1 or 2 high priority reports, which are technically regressions from previous behavior. So there are now a couple of things to be looked into, but all the rest is pretty much expected.
That's very good to hear.
Yeah. So
okay.
Well, it's also like we did it because we didn't really want to bring back the Burley because it's non PBR, right? But it causes interesting effects, but then it's a bit more noisy in a new architecture. But people ask it, it's like, okay, let's try our best of bringing those things. So
for 3.0, you can already.
Well, we already brought it back.
For 3.1.
So no, it's already in 3.0.
Yes, but for 3.1, you may.
For 3.1, I guess it will stay, but we still want to improve the random walk because it has some issues with the non-manifolds and the intersecting objects. Those are things we can improve and make it better and hopefully obsolete the Burley.
Yeah?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay, so hope to see more of that for you. Do you plan to continue work on Cycles X, or you plan to move back to?
That's a very great question, and
I don't know if you can answer.
well, I mean, Ton wants me to move to something like to another big impact project and whatnot, because Cycles X is done, right? From the like executive sector point of view, it's done. It's done.
Done.
It's on
Next.
the release. Done. Next.
Cool.
Now we have Brecht and William to take care of there, so I might move. Yeah. Hello.
We love you, Sergey.
Yeah, sure. I love everybody. Yes.
Bye. Okay. Thank you very much for dropping
you.
by. I'm glad
Thank
to
you.
have you over in the show, and
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy working
Yeah.
with the film. One last thing, we're announcing. Yes, Bastian. All right. So, and then it's you. Okay. So we have another visitor, another developer, the developer corner. So, Bastian Montran has been working on many areas of Blender. One of them, I think, is the most critical for Sprite Fright. I heard by the team saying library overrides.
Yes. So basically the replacement for the proxy system who existed in Blender for, I don't even remember how many years, but 20
Forever,
years
yeah.
or something, yeah. And the biggest shortcoming of the proxy system was that you could only have one proxy of a given library of a given character, for example, in your scene. So that was the initial trigger for the library overrides to.
Like with the old system having this thing of all the characters, like many characters.
Like yeah, exactly.
Like
having
this would be a nightmare.
tens of sprites in the scene. Basically, you had to have 10 libraries with 10 copies of the sprite, and then link them all and create one proxy for each of them. So it was possible, but it added a lot of overhead and a lot of extra memory usage also and everything. So that was the main trigger for the library override project.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sprite Fright was the first production tryout of the whole system. So that was a very
For actions mainly. Like
mostly for animation, for character animation, or like they used it also for the sets, like having several copies of the trees, but still being able to tweak them.
What level? Materials?
Materials are still using the old Python. There was no support of materials in Proxy at all. They are using some black magic, which is basically Python scripts that are run when you're loading the Blender file and that override that way the values in the material.
Oh wow!
So
it works. Like for the point of view of the user, there is material overrides.
It works, but that's not the same system, and that's something that is not ideal because it requires basically almost programming manually, or you have to write an add-on to do that, and it's something that works and that has worked for years in Blender productions, but it's not a good system. It's more like a hack than a good system. Wow. And library overrides aim at being able to do that, but it's it's a very big project, so it took years. It has been in development since 2018, I think.
Since 2.80.
Yeah, it was part of the 2.80 original ideas. So
yeah, but in 3.0 is when the make proxy button disappeared.
The make proxy function disappears, and by default, when you are opening an older Blender file with proxies, it will be converted to overrides. So that's the official first step of deprecation of proxies.
Deprecation. Yes. Wow. So there is still, I guess, a long way to go. What is next in the overrides?
There are several topics. We have smaller tasks, like there are performances issues. For example, it's a bit technical, but when you resync the overrides, when you load the Blender file and your library has changed, sometimes you need to resync your overrides in your working file, and this is still taking too much time, so I want to work on that.
To read the original library and reapply the overrides?
It's basically rereading the original data block and reapplying the whole overrides while keeping the new changes in the library data, so I mean, it's quite complicated. It will never be lightning fast, but right now it's a bit too slow, and I think there are a margin of progress there.
First performance?
First performance, I also want to tackle some more technical depth issue, like some part of the code of overrides need to be rewritten a little bit to be more future-proof and more in line with the global design of the system. Then probably the next big feature from the user perspective is properly supporting materials, because this is currently not working. Blender users probably know that materials can be assigned either to meshes or to objects. And this makes the whole system a bit tricky, so I need to spend a bit of time to properly find ways to deal with this system.
Or it could be...
And there are also design issues with nodes, like how do you support node trees in a material context.
Oh, like to override an entire node tree or per node? Or
well, yeah, exactly. Like, because Geometry Node also introduced a nice concept, which is some kind of public interface of the node tree. So you only have a few settings that are actually exposed outside. And then in that context, you could very easily just make those settings overrideable, and the whole node tree itself would not be editable or overrideable.
Oh, wow. So if the concept of geometry nodes of exposing specific settings was ported to shaders,
exactly,
that would solve or make that easy.
I mean, it makes it manageable, because otherwise, like node trees can really be hundreds of nodes. And if everything is overrideable, it's doable, but it's probably hard for the users to manage it.
Too slow,
it will add some time to the system, which can make it too slow, yes. So there are some design issues as well. And in probably longer run, there's also the topic of what we call restrictive overrides, because right now when you create an override, basically you can change everything. And the idea is, like, some pipeline may require rather some kind of whitelist, so you cannot change anything besides what the step above in the pipeline has decided to make editable. So for example, in a rig, you could only animate a set of bones and not the whole bones in your armature. Or for materials, you could only tweak some settings and not
all of the settings. Yeah.
And this is something which is also on the schedule, but we don't there's no strong plans for the strong schedule for it, but it's on the to-do list. Yeah.
Well, but you're now here in Amsterdam, so you can see more often of this. The project in general, so it was library overrides. It was the entire proxy system. We know what is now in the future.
Yes.
This what you mentioned, is this 3.1 or 3.x?
Part of it, I hope it will be 3.1. A lot of it will also be for later. Like the restrictive workflow, we need also some stakeholders, like some studio, for example, that could actually use that workflow and make use of it, because this is not a workflow, I think, that would work well with Blender, for example. It requires a lot of overhead and a lot of very strict and strong structure in the whole pipeline, so that you can control and predict what needs to be changed. Because if the artist always have to, like if the animator always have to go back to the rigging department to ask for this to be editable or everything, it's not manageable on especially not in the studio of the scale of Blender, I think.
Yeah.
So we would also need to find a studio to actually help designing and, more importantly, help actually using and testing, stress testing the system.
You hear it? Feedback.
Yeah. But the main goal is really performance and technical depth on one side, and then the materials. I don't think material will be in 3.1, but I hope it will be in 3.2 or 3.3.
3.2 or so. Are you happy working on that? Do you want to work on another area in Blender, or?
I mean, I'm happy working on that, yes. I'm working in the core module in general anyway, but that's very interesting.
And translations too? Yeah.
Translation is more like a very side work.
Project, okay.
Nowadays, most of the spend on.
All right, thank you very much for dropping by, for all your work on
Welcome.
Sprite Fright. Thank you for making a bunch of sprites at the same time happen. Major achievement. Remember, back in the days where you couldn't have more than one character with with a different action. Do you remember? Let's bring a veteran in the Blender.
I remember
You remember
duplicating many characters and duplicating many blend files, linking them in, giving them a slightly different name.
Yeah,
and,
we had that.
Yeah, and that was it. So that was the way. You did that in
Tears of
Sintel,
Steel.
You did it still in Tears of Steel. We had some birds there, and yeah, that was the way. I mean, yeah, still had and it still had some benefits, that workflow, because Blender was really quick at loading all these different things. But hopefully, this is a more, abstract way to handle this complexity, and it's more scalable than every time you need a character variation, you create a new blend file. So
I think so.
that's good, and it's just like there is still a lot to do, like Bastien was mentioning, but we learned a lot from this experience. So
yeah, and Sprite Fright as a project, it wasn't announced as like we're going to fix this thing or work on this specific feature, as opposed to some other open projects in the past. But the fact that library overrides got such an overhaul, post library, and
yeah, I mean the geometry nodes. That was pretty big.
It's actually pretty big. And people sometimes discuss about the importance maybe of an open movie project for the development of Blender, and the mix between Blender Studio and Blender Development Fund and that kind of.
Yeah, like the announcement at the beginning was really, okay, we're going to focus on pipeline. We're going to focus on, our own, growth as a studio in the storytelling. And pipeline means tools and processes that can help artists to create. And that means Blender, but also things around it. And as you've heard from Paul, we also, put quite some effort. I think we never so much shared, and we do plan to share even more, like what kind of add-ons and extensions we're doing, how we are integrating with like the task tracking tools and all that kind of stuff, like to really try and make that reproducible and as well documented as we can. And I think that that's also a bit the direction where the Blender Studio is going, to really share that production knowledge, which is not just, oh, I know how Blender works, I know how to model and texture things, but is how do you work with others? How do you make things more scalable? How do I work with a team of 10, 20 people and keep my things under control?
So Blender Studio, you could also say, is Blender in a studio, right? Because you share that knowledge that is so rare that no tutorial can cover really what takes to go through over a year of production.
You see those great trailers, you see great T-series, you see lots of stuff online, and for us as makers, that's really the question. Is, I wonder how they do it, because of course, even here in the studio, like you always wonder that, and of course you know how to model it or how to make it look, like a render. You can really copy that image, but the question is deeper. It's like, how do you make 100 shots like that? How do you do it with 100 people, or how do you do it with 50 people? And that's like a deeper question. It's more about the process itself. And that is just TD knowledge. Is like very, very, very specific. So maybe the audience is not as big as this is how you make this simple asset or this simple prop. This is how you model a human. This is how you make things photorealistic. Of course, people care a lot about that. And there is a lot of great, content. But we also focus on something else. So that's, and I think that this is a very nice step in that direction, and that we really want to try to make that more and more clear also on the Blender website, that this is really like the role of the studio, and that there is, of course, a direct relation with Blender itself, because, by using that almost exclusively, we can really push things a lot. So
yeah, and you can see that how also it's like a splash of many improvements in the rigging department, in the subtitles patch that Paul did, that also ended up in the video sequence editor. So I think it's a good step in the right direction. The change of Blender Cloud into Blender Studio. It's and that concept you mentioned of answering the question is like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Well, now there is a place where that can.
Yeah, we really try, and also like to really more regularly share, because we had the weeklies. We were never able to really do them live, so people could really follow like this. We would edit them and upload them, but I really would love to have a bit more like interaction and to share it even more unfiltered, so that you really feel that that's happening in the room, in the moment. I mean, it's like almost a reality show. So I think that's that would be fun to do. And of course, to make that so that it's transparent to our process, so that people can actually work without feeling watched. That's like something that takes a bit of training. It's like when you do your live streams, now you can talk and talk about stuff and not get distracted by chats or pictures.
Really
it takes
hard.
a few months, few years, but yeah. So yeah, that's like how weekly looks like. And we have like dozens of them, and you can see every artist showcasing their work, and you can go through the different stages of the production, and that's all public, so anyone can actually see it.
It's on this channel, by the way.
Yeah, and then of course you can actually get the files. You can actually get like all the technology and all the stuff on the website for you to have. So yeah.
That's pretty neat. So what can we expect? When can we expect to have this content available?
I mean, the focus of the team for the next few weeks is going to be on this, and we are going to make a reel like what we did for the Spring Open movie. I really want to edit that, get some nice catchy music, and show like a lot of the process without narration, without anything, just like picture, and I hope that that's going to be really exciting, because the guys have been working for months and months, and all the different processes are so amazing to see. Even for me, like editing this thing together is always a joy, because it's just great material. And after that, there will be even like more in-depth kind of a making of content, so that's going to be narrated with the artists talking about their process and their work, and yeah, and more, and then like more in-depth stuff. So
speaking of more,
yeah,
this is the biggest project ever done by the studio in terms of amount of artists and even length. I would say went over a year.
Yeah,
of course there was something
production duration.
Yeah. So next for the Blender Studio, are you going even bigger as a producer? Can you say that?
This has to kind of line up with what Tom said earlier, right? For those who are paying attention.
It's not that I'm trying to, are you going?
We talked about what we can do, right? It's really tied very closely to what the cloud supporters allow us to do, because this is an independent studio, it's an independent team, and with the resources we have, this is the scope. This is as far as we can push it, and we have like 8,000 subscribers. At some point we had almost 9,000, and it went up and down a little bit. What can we do if we have 10,000 subscribers? And this is like, from a production perspective, is really, if you go to /stats, we can actually see the latest. You want to be scared? Yeah, let's see what is happening. You see, ooh, look at that.
Wow, 8,000.
Yeah.
Look at the nice drop.
Yeah. So that's the reality. This page is public. We really don't mind sharing this kind of information.
Oh, why?
We are always trying to figure out what is it that causes these things. And of course, we have some ideas. There are also some technical reasons behind why this looks like this. And normally after we release a film and we put more content out, like there is a direct correlation between the kind of content we make and the subscribers we get. So we know, of course, that if artists would spend less time making films and more time making a tutorial, we would get more subscribers. But that really is a threshold, is a balance that we find, right? Because otherwise we don't make content. If you look at the most successful content creators online that are doing educational content, they do great educational content, but then it's very hard to actually make creative content, tell a story. It's really rare, and we really want to keep the balance. So then the scope and the size of our projects really directly depends on how many people believe in this.
Yeah.
So, I think that this project was a very big challenge, even though Don was saying that it was a walk in the park.
Walk in the park.
So I am really, really, proud and humbled by the skill and the talent of everybody who worked on this production. I'm really grateful as well, like Matthew said, to be part of this. And I think that for the next project, we have to do something that has a smaller scope, something that is more manageable. We can still aim at really high quality, but maybe we shouldn't do it in minutes. You can do something that has, almost the same entertainment value as this, but a bit more compact, and still make it really cool. And then after that, probably another project, and try to grow it up in scope. And it's really, again, very much tied to how well we manage to communicate to everyone what is our mission and what is our goal.
How much support, how much people believe in the project. In the Blender Studio
So we will
project,
do our best to make sure that,
Yes.
that is communicated and that people get a reason to support us. Of course, we care a lot.
We do care a lot. It's been almost like what 2 hours of
It's
live stream,
like
and
a-
we haven't even mentioned or asked you to subscribe to the Blender Studio. So is that humble?
This is the moment. This is the moment where you can make a difference. You've seen the page now, actually.
You
and
can
that
make this
is-
go up. Is it automatic?
Yeah, I
Like
think
the
so.
moments?
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
if
let's
we
see
can
if
wait,
someone subscribe.
we can wait 5 minutes and see. But I think there might be a cron job, so it might not be.
It's not all the time, but it's maybe once every hour,
Yeah,
3
yeah.
hours.
This is not because it's a time series, so it's not.
Okay.
We have to check tomorrow, so we can do another live stream next
Okay,
week.
if you want to make this go up, go to studio.blender.org, and you're gonna get there the nice
button to sign
the
up.
button to sign up. Yeah, it's right here.
Okay. So,
So-
at this point, I want to thank you, Pablo, for
thank you.
hosting this marathon.
I didn't expect this to be 2 hours at all.
Yeah.
But I had fun doing it.
Yeah, thank you, really. Thanks a lot. And, thanks to everyone for joining us, for watching the film. Please share it and,
Yes.
spread it as far as you can. What is the prediction? When do we get 100K, 100,000 views? Is it this weekend? How many do we have? Can you check? Let's have a quick look.
I mean, 100,000. How long did it take for the previous projects?
I don't remember.
You
don't
remember? No.
So it's not really easy to
measure.
predict,
Yeah.
So
No, I
it's
would say.
5,000
I think it was 1 week to 100,000.
Okay, look, it's 10,000 now.
10,000.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
So yeah. So I would say.
It's gonna take a week.
I would say a week.
Okay. Let's keep it humble and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, this weekend only. But
Alright.
please share it if you are watching this and
Yes,
you
yeah, we appreciate
haven't
that a lot.
share
Yes.
this link.
Yeah.
And yeah, spread the news. The files and everything that made this film is gonna be available in the coming days, weeks.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. Thank you, Francesco, for dropping
Thank
by.
you, Pablo. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the artists. Thanks to everyone who's still around. Everybody's like chilling. So
Everybody's chilling, yeah, in the back. There's just
So now we
something
can
else.
join them.
I can join them. I might have dinner even at some
Exactly.
point.
Yeah,
so.
even. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for staying tuned until the end. Blender and Studio is gonna keep having maybe live streams there in the back. Don't jump into it.
Excitement. Yes.
There, look at that. Look at how
All
happy it
right.
is. Okay. See you soon. And see you Monday maybe at the Blender Studio, Blender
Live
YouTube
streams,
channel.
yeah,
live
live
stream
streams,
with
yeah.
Blender 3.0 beta.
Alpha.